And we are live on the Voice of the Cape, YouTube and Facebook platforms for the VOC Matric Revision Program 2022. Alhamdulillah. And do remember to like and share these lessons. Inshallah, today we are focusing on geography and specifically looking at the topic of map interpretation. That's for grade 12. Our facilitator is Aalia Kara. She is an educator for Futures Academy Online High School. Assalamu alaikum, Alia.
Walaikum salam. How are you, Kanita?
I'm very well, Alhamdulillah, and also looking, forward to today's session on geography, specifically looking at map interpretations. And I don't know why, but whenever I'm following a geography lesson, it feels as if I'm watching a news, or rather weather, a bulletin forecast. I don't know why. Yeah, but yeah, for today's lesson, I'll be handing over to you to commence as I see that people already started joining in the session. Alhamdulillah. Remember, do like and share, because these sessions are recorded and you can always go back and revert back to the recording, and follow through the lesson along with the facilitator, today being Aalia Kara. So I hand over to you to proceed.
Assalamu alaikum, and how are you all? Okay, so I'm starting off with map interpretation. Kanita, just before we go on, can you just tell me if you see my screen?
Okay. Yes, I can see your screen. Are you having trouble on your side?
No. Because I can't actually see anything else. I just need to know if we are good to go. So
No, we're
currently,
good to go.
I can only hear my voice. That's it. I can't even see what's going on in the background.
No, we are live, and I see there are a few people who have joined the session.
Okay. All right. So today we are speaking about application, and I feel that this is the one section that we score the lowest marks in, especially in our map work part of our paper. So although map work part of the paper is only divided up into 30 marks, what is the major problem is the application. So often we find that we don't even understand how to read a map. So that's what I'm going to take you through today, just showing you the various things, how they link with each other, how you can use certain aspects of the map in order to answer a question. So let's get straight into it. The first thing that I want you to take note of, I just need to use a laser pointer, is the various relationships between certain images on the actual map. Now, what you see in the circles are what we call in GIS layers. So we'll start off with economic activities. Anything that is green or black would reference our economic activities for that particular map. Anything in gray would represent any man-made structure, which is a built-up structure. So it could be either residential regions or it could be in industries that are located within that particular region. The red often dictates infrastructure of that region. When we say infrastructure, we are talking about fixed components, meaning main roads, railway lines, other types of roads that join a national road, or any other internal type of infrastructure. Then when we come to the blue and the brown, these are natural features that are found on our map. Now, when we say natural, in terms of the brown, we are referring to things like the relief of the area, mountains, valleys of the region, whether or not that region is flat, whether or not that region is steep. So we look at contour lines when we look at that particular aspect of it. Then anything in blue would be regards to any water. So what type of rivers are there? Are there dams that are found within that region? Are there seas or an ocean that is found within that region? And what would be the climate of that particular region, which I will get into once we get into the actual map itself. So this is a typical topographical map that you would find in your paper. And when you look at this topographical map, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that I have to look at all of this and understand what it all means. But no need to worry. I'm going to take the exact same map and I'm going to break it down into those sections for you. So the first thing that we need to understand is something called conventional signs. When we talk about conventional signs, we are talking about three things: points on a map, lines on a map, and areas on a map. So when we're talking about points on a map, there are actual points that you would find on the map. So for example, this particular symbol here would represent a windmill. This particular one here would represent a graveyard. This one here would represent a communications tower. This one here, a trigonomical beacon. This one here, it would be points of interest, right? Then there would be other points where it says, this one here, it says a water tower. That means a huge, massive reservoir that is sitting on an actual structure or pillars. That would be regarded as a water tower. The R with the dot next to it would represent a reservoir. And these would represent furrows, for example. That's all with reference to water. Lines are any lines that we find on a map, whether it is, as in the first one, a river, whether it is a power line, whether it is a demarcated region or a protected region, a buffered zone. We would get a thick green line, whether it's a railway, whether it's a pylon, a power line, or whether it's a road. Any type of line we would find. An area would be any area, so any shape that we can associate to an area. So a graveyard, housing, a golf course, cultivated land, marshes, dams, maybe soil erosion, or maybe an excavation area, things like that. Right, so those are conventional signs. Now let's break down the actual map itself. So the brown lines first. You'd find a whole lot of brown lines. Remember, these are layers from the exact same. I'm just going to go quickly back to this exact same map here. I'm just pulling out layers, so GIS layers. So the first layer that I pulled out was my brown layer, and this is my contour lines. So when we look at the contour lines give us indication of height. Now remember, we're looking at a map. A map can't tell us how steep the area is or how flat the area is, but a contour line can do that for us. So if I find a contour line and next to the contour line there is a number, 200, for example, that means that area is 200 meters above sea level, that region there. Then the further apart our contour lines are from each other, that means that the area is more gentle, or it's a flatter slope. Whereas if the contour lines are very close together, it will tell us that that particular region is either a mountainous region or the area is very hilly in nature. Now, you get other brown symbols that are found on your map as well. And these can make reference to different types of soil erosion or any other type of soil that we would find on the map itself. Remember, there is always a reference at the bottom of a map. So be wary of that. Don't ignore it. Right? The next one is the blue. Remember, I told you again, I'm breaking down that exact same map just in layers. So the blue represents any water. However, there is one blue symbol that does not represent water, and that is a national road. Sometimes they place in national road in a blue. Right, so the most important thing in terms of the blue that you need to remember is the dotted line suggests to us that that area only gets rainfall during certain seasons. It does not get rain throughout the year. So we call that non-perennial rivers. Right? The solid line, which is one that looks like that, would indicate that that particular region is there's rainfall throughout the year, and it is fed throughout the year. Okay. Excuse me a second. Sorry about that. Right, then the R's that are found on your map would indicate to us they are reservoirs. So the reservoirs tell us that that particular region doesn't receive any rainfall, so they have to store water within that region. Another indication that the region does not receive that much of rainfall would be dams. So these little areas here are all dams. So that means that this particular region has to store water. A quick thing about dams, please remember the solid black line that is found next to your dam itself will tell us that that is the dam wall, right? And a lot of times they actually ask us to calculate the distance of that particular dam wall. Then the green regions. The green regions symbolizes anything that is green. So whether it's forestry, whether it's plantations, whether it's planted rows of trees, whether it's cultivated land or golf course, or it could be a buffered zone. Now, how would you recognize the buffered zone? The buffer zone is always a thicker green line that is found on the map. Cultivated lands are all the ones that have tiny little lines or dots. Remember, there's a very big difference between the two lines as well as the little blocks. One would indicate a plantation and one would indicate a cultivated piece of land. Then the little round blue greenish type of circles that you find all along, they indicate rows of trees. Now, in this particular map here, you would see loads and loads of rows of trees all surrounding cultivated land. Why? In order to help protect the cultivated pieces of land, they act as wind buffers. So they stop soil erosion from taking place. Then the deeper shaded regions or fully covered regions of green would indicate to you that's a golf course or it is a park of recreation, anything of that sort, right? So the solid green. Then the red, as I said to you, most often the red would indicate to us roads, so national roads, regional roads, or it could be part of a area that has a railway attached to it, right? And then also places of interest. The black on a map. The black on a map represents, like I said to you, built up regions. So in this particular case, you can see the shaded gray area, which is here, would tell us that this is a residential region. Then this particular black part here would tell us this is an excavation region. Now you can see all along this particular map, there's something called diggings. There's there at the bottom, there's one here on the top. Is there any other more? Yeah, there's another one here. This would tell us that this particular area is mainly used in terms of mining. What mining it actually has, we would have to look at the map or the information that the map gives us with regards to that. Also, other solid black lines, like this particular one in particular, is a railway line. That this railway line is running all the way through this particular town and all the way out from this town here. Then you find that this particular line here, which is the smaller inside, would tell us that that particular, it's probably internal roads from the one digging region to the next digging region to the next digging region that they could use, their trucking, whatever they use. The dark black little blocks indicates to us settlement, right? So the tiny little blocks would indicate settlements. So if we have a look at this particular settlement, you can see that this particular settlement here is a nucleated settlement. That means that it is clustered together, the homesteads, and they are situated on a road. So they are linear nucleated to the road. Whereas this one here is more dispersed because they are far apart from each other. They're not clustered within each other's region. So you can actually pick up quite a bit on this particular map here, right? Then heights. How are heights represented on a topographical map? Oops, sorry. The first one and the most obvious one is your contour line. That will tell us immediately how many meters above sea level it is. The second one is your trig beacon. Now, the trig beacon is a little triangle with two numbers. The number that is found on the top would indicate to us the number of the beacon, right? Of that actual beacon itself. And the bottom number, which is 877.9 in this particular case, will tell us the height above sea level. So the height is not that first one here. It is the actual bottom one, which is here. Then the next one, as you can see where the two arrows are pointing, they are a tiny little arrow that is pointing to a point on the road itself. And there is a number next to that. That is a benchmark. A benchmark also gives us an indication of height. And most often a benchmark is found on a road or a railway line. The last one is a spot height. So it is a dot with a number next to it. And that will also indicate to us height above sea level. So here's another one here. Here's another one here, right? There's another one there. So all these will indicate to us height. Now, there's a tiny little trick with regards to height. If you have a look at the height of the contour line here and the height of the contour line here, you can see this one is written in the opposite direction as opposed to this one here. Why? Anything that is found above this particular line will tell us that that height increases in this direction here. So in this case, it is increasing southwards and it is decreasing northwards. Where in this instance, this particular area tells us that the height is increasing as we're going up, so northwards. And as we're going downwards, it's decreasing in height. Now, it looks a little bit funny in this particular instance because there are so many mountains within this region. Because of the contour lines, you can see that there are mountainous regions. So yes, there's going to be various heights found within this particular region. Then slopes. As I said to you earlier on, we cannot depict whether the land is flat or whether the land is steep. And how we do that is by our contour lines. Now, if you have a look at this particular contour lines on this side, they're very far apart from each other. So that tells us that the land is flat. And that's why we would find lots of cultivation taking place within that particular region, as well as this particular region here. Whereas, if you look at this region here, This indicates to us that this particular region is more slopier or it is more steep. And if you read on the top, it says plantation. So that means that this particular region here was utilized for forestry, growing of trees within this area here. So remember, your contour lines will indicate to you immediately what the height above sea level would be, whether the area is steep or whether the area is gentle, right? When the area is gentle, we often find cultivated pieces of land, as opposed to when it is steeper, we would find plantations or forestry that would be on that particular slope. Or if it's too steep, we can't really then plant anything on them unless we contour plant, which is a whole different aspect. Then we get two indications, and this confuses children over and over and over again. Two words, convex and concave. Now, the most easiest way to remember this is a belly out and a belly in. Convex, so let's start with convex. So we're going to look at convex, which is this region here. It is an outer belly. So somebody that is pregnant or fat little, I don't know, whatever, uncle, that has a beer belly, for example. It is out. So convex, rounded. Concave, where do you find a cave? Inside or deep within. So concave would be the opposite, very curved from the outside. And there's the indication. It is curved. It is curved on the outside, right? So as I said, convex and concave, right? That is your two main ones. Also, please remember something. Here is the ocean in this particular point. Against the ocean, you would find tiny little rock structures that are found on your map, which would indicate to us that this particular region has sort of a buffered region in terms of protecting against the sea. But as we move off from this particular area here, the minute we hit the shoreline, it starts in terms of 1 feet, 2 feet, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, as we move inwards. But anywhere along the shoreline, that can be anywhere within the world, it will always be 0 feet. It's only as we come into the interior, that's when height starts to increase. And that's why they say height above sea level. Right. Now, landforms. This is also something that we often get confused about when we talk about gentle and when we talk about steep. So gentle would be, oh shucks, my slides aren't changing. Just give me a second. Sorry.
Hi, Aalia. Sorry to interrupt you.
No problem.
I think there might be a bit of a problem with the changing of slides here. But I see now that the one slide is shown is basically displaying now.
Okay, so I'm going to reshare my screen again. I'm so sorry about that.
No problem.
I think it got interrupted when there was a phone call that came through.
No problem.
Can you just hang on with me until I just get into the slide again, right? So can you see the little mountain?
Yes.
And if I go back, can you see the word landforms?
Yes, I do see it, yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so just put this into sleep, do not disturb mode. Conita, if you need me again, just I got you. I got my phone on do not disturb. Yes. So just pop yourself in, okay? If you don't see anything.
No problem. I'll do so.
Okay. So As I was saying, we get two types of slopes. One is a steep slope and one is a gentle slope. A steep would tell us that our contour lines are extremely close to each other, and a gentle, they're far apart from each other. So what you see on the map is this. But if I have to take that and I have to put it onto a piece of paper and I have to open it up in terms of a cross section, this is what I'm going to find. So I would find this. But now obviously I can't draw this on my map. So I have to indicate it in this particular way. Now, for example, if we have a look at this little tiny diagram that I drew here on the side, you'll see that the height starts to increase as we get to the top of the mountain. And then it starts to decrease as we move away. So how will this actual little landform look like if I have to place it on a topographical map? So let's just go here. So if you can have a look, you can see that this particular region here is very close to each other. So that's here. And as I come to the center, which is this big, huge piece here, there we go. That's the area. Now, as I'm coming down from here and I'm moving down, my contour line starts moving further apart. So that means now my area is much more gentle. So there we go. Very steep hill, but then it starts to gentle itself out. Okay. Now, a river. Sorry. How will a river be indicated on a map? Most often, a river is indicated by a line with an arrow through it. And you would always find that it is through a very steep structure that you would find a river that flows through it. How would this one here actually look if I have to open it up into a cross section? It will look like this. So a river always flows from a higher point to a lower point, and we can see that from the contour line. So this particular contour line here is 200, but as we're going down, you can see that it eventually gets to 50, which is around here. Okay, then the next one, a plateau. So Table Mountain, for example, is an indication of more of a mesa, but we can say that it has a very flat top on the top. So very similar in terms of what a plateau would look like. So a plateau has a very, very, very flat-like top, but very steep sides. And how is it indicated? It has a huge, massive section in the center, and the sides are extremely close to each other. The next one is a conical hill. So, for example, let's give you an example. The lookout point, just not too far away from Lion's Head, would be an indication of a conical hill. So it's a not very steep type of a hill, but it has a height. And then it just gentles out itself. But it is very uniform, so it's very even in shape. And the structure would look exactly like that. The next one is a ridge. Now, a ridge, as you can see from the actual cross-section of your topographical map, it is a very longish kind of a structure. So we call this a ridge. A ridge often has two little tops. So that's the one top here. That's the other top here. So that's that top here. Let's just put this in an actual pin. So this area is here. That particular area is there. And that area is there. Now, in between that two hills here, so this area here, we call this area here a saddle or a port or a gap, or another word would be a pass. So it's an area that is found between two very steep hills, but still in a wedge, right? The next one is a cliff. Now, a cliff is completely vertical. If you have a look at it here, it's completely vertical. And the only way to indicate this particular vertical part of the contour lines is to make your contour lines on your map extremely close, almost touching each other. That will tell us immediately that that particular area is a cliff. Now, the main thing that children often get confused about is stream flow. From where does a river flow and where does it flow towards? So the question would be, in which direction does the Crocodile River flow? Always remember the following things. A dam wall, which is this particular one here. Water will always flow out of a dam wall. It will never flow into a dam wall. Remember, dam wall blocks water. It doesn't allow water to come into it. It blocks the water off. Only when they open up the dam wall, that's when the actual water would flow outwards. Second thing, it always flows from a higher height towards a lower height. So look for your spot heights. Look for the higher spot heights, and you will find that that particular river will flow from the higher point going towards the lower point. Next one is your drainage patterns. How exactly do they look on a topographical map? You get four main ones. Well, you get a lot others, but the four main ones that are often found on a South African synoptic weather chart or a South African topographical map is the dendritic system, which looks like a tree, right? So if you have a look at it here, it looks like a tree. The next one would be a rectangular one. It means that the angles that are found on the map itself would be at 90 degrees, right? The next one would be a trellis, and this is often found along a mountain. So it's found parallel to the mountain. And then the last one is radial. So they flow out of a very steep mountain region. So it won't have just one main stream. It will have a few streams that will flow outwards. Right. So one more thing again about a river in this particular instance. So let's have a look at this particular dam here. Remember, the water will flow out of this particular dam wall, right? Again here, same story. It will flow out of the dam wall. In this particular instance, same. It will flow out of the dam wall. Here's another one. That's your dam wall. It will flow out of your dam wall. Another one here, out of your dam wall. Now, if you have a look at this particular one here, you can see that the river is flowing in two different directions. How do I now find the typical way of the direction of this particular river? Let's look at the contour lines. I have a height of 20, and then I have a height of 26, which is here. So this particular river is flowing from your west towards your east. It is moving in that direction, right? So, and you can see that from all of it, the river is flowing out into that direction. Sorry about that. Now, in order to understand a topographical map, you have to understand the regions, and in terms of the regions, the climate of that particular area. So just very briefly, I'm going to just touch on this. So if you're a life science student, this will be very easy for you to understand because you do this section in life sciences. But if you are not, it's quite easy to understand. So let's start. We're going to start with the purple region here. And the purple region here is what we call a subtropical low veld. That means that this particular area receives rainfall, especially during the summer months of the year, right? And it's a low-lying area. So that means it is much, much more greener as opposed to the areas that are found adjacent to it. The next one, which is this one here, is what we called our subtropical coast. So this region here receives rainfall throughout the year. And most often, if you find a topographical chart with regards to any of the regions that are found here, you'll find that it's very green in nature. You'll find that there are perennial rivers within that region. Why? Because crops like sugarcane can actually grow within that region. The next one is your escarpment, which is the green one here. Now, when we're talking about the escarpment, we're talking about a very high lying area, right? So the Drakensberg escarpment, so it's very high. So any region that is found within that, you'll find that the heights in that topographical map would be very high. Then our main one, which is our Eastern Plateau, seasonal rainfall. It rains during the summer months of the year, and it's dry within the winter months of the year. So seasonal crops will only grow in that region. The big one is the Southwestern Cape, which has Mediterranean climate. That means it only rains in the winter months of the year, and nothing happens in the summer months of the year, right? And the only way it actually receives rainfall is through the mid-latitude cyclone. And the white area indicates a semi-arid region. So there's hardly anything that grows within this region. And we know that because bulk of this region here is where we find the Karoo. So nothing really grows there. However, one main thing, the Orange River runs all the way from the west coast of South Africa, all the way to the east coast of South Africa. So it actually runs through the Karoo. So we call that river an exotic river because it's not supposed to be there, but it is there in any case. So we would find some sort of, won't say cultivation, but we would actually find sheep farming happening in that region. So the Karoo sheep farming happens in this region. And then the last one is the green, the dark green, which is your desert region. Nothing happens there at all.
Alia,
Yes?
we've run out of time for today.
Okay, no, it's fine.
Yeah, I think today we've had a bit of a few technical glitches happening for the last bit now. My monitor switched off and I was trying to figure out how am I going to go back and communicate with you. But that's, a comedy of errors today. But we managed to get through the lesson. And thanks to all the viewers for tuning in. Remember to like and share so that many students can benefit from the sessions we've had on. So just in terms of next week, what are you planning to cover next week, very briefly?
Okay, so I'll finish up this particular slide next week, which isn't that much, and then I'm going back into your paper one. So we are going to start with geomorphology next week.
Awesome. So there is a sneak peek to the next session. Shukran to you, Aalia, for joining us today. That's Aalia Kara, an educator at Futures Academy Online High School. The topic is geography. But for now, we bid you farewell. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.